Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
All right, here we go. Welcome to Friday evening in America, everybody. Welcome to the Rich Valdez Show. My name is Paul Vandenburgh. We're in Albany, New York tonight. Rich is celebrating a family milestone. And he'll be back with you on Monday evening. Back on Monday. We're here for tonight till midnight on the East Coast. And I'll look forward to talking to a lot of you along the way. Here on the Rich Valdez Show on Westwood 1. It'll be Open Phone America tonight. And before I came on earlier this evening, talking to the folks at the control studio about Larry King and Jim Bohannon and all the folks that did the show before Rich did, and quite a history, a long history of great talk at this time of night. And I am in Albany, New York. Again, my name is Paul Vandenburgh. I've done this. I do the mornings here at Talk 1300 WGDJ in Albany. And so many times I've had a chance to step in and do these things, and I don't do it because I get up early in the morning. I'm usually in my office every morning at about 3:45. So we're here doing the morning show. And it's hard to do a nighttime talk show or even given the opportunity like this to do it. But in my origins, I want to get this out of the way because I've been thinking about this since I committed to doing the show tonight. In my origins in talk radio, and I've been doing talk in this market since '86. Next year will be 40. If I make it to next year, it'll be 40 years. And I in my origins, I did a lot of nighttime talk, and I loved it, and always thought early on that this would be what I would do. I like doing talk very much. And I loved working at night because, it's so much easier to work at night because there's so many things you don't have to do at night that you have to do during the day. And then back in 94, I was asked to do mornings. And I thought, well, I'll do it for now. It won't last long. And here I am all these years later, still doing mornings. And I haven't done a nighttime talk show in over 30 years. And to say I was looking forward to this tonight would be an understatement because this ought to be fun because it's been so long and I haven't had a chance to do this. Tonight ought to be fun. There's a lot of you out there listening, a lot of stations. We'll get your phone calls in. We'll do it all between now and midnight here on the East Coast. And there is no lack of news. I didn't schedule any guests tonight. And the reason I didn't is because I would much rather take your phone calls, which we will do. And we'll do it shortly. But let's talk about a couple of things that happened during the course of the day today, okay? Because there is a lot of news, and there's I've had a bit of a theme back here in Albany for the last couple of weeks, which I'm kind of hung up on a little bit, and I hope it doesn't prevent me from getting some other things tonight, but I've been kind of hung up on a theme here for the last couple of weeks, and the theme is, are you in or are you out? And what I mean by that is, there's a massive change going on in America right now. I mean, it's remarkable, the change that's going on in America right now. And as I watch what's going on and see all these things happening out there, like today, here we'll use today and this afternoon as an example. You saw the mayor of Newark, this Rask Baraka, get arrested for trespassing down in Newark. And this is a place called Delaney Hall. Now, I'm not familiar with the landscape in Newark, but this is a place called Delaney Hall. And it is a place where ICE is housing immigrants. And they've got, based on the numbers I see so far, about 1,000 in there. And these people that are in there are alleged killers. They're MS-13 gang members. They're child rapists. These are the people in there. And here are the Democrats, Rasparaka, the mayor of Newark, along with Monica Melber, Bernie, or is it Benny Coleman? Bonnie Coleman, and Bob Menendez Jr. And you know what? I didn't know that Bob Menendez Sr. had a kid in Congress. Really? And he's down there. I watched him do a little press conference outside of the hall down there, Delaney Hall today, crying like a child. And these are all Democrats. And you're wondering to yourself, what is the goal here? What's the idea here? What are they doing here? And here they are. You got the worst criminals in this place, the worst, okay? And you're wondering, what the hell are they doing? They're flying to El Salvador, trying to get criminals out of jail. Here they are in Newark getting arrested. Now, Rasparaka, the mayor of Newark, was arrested. And here's Elena Haba, who is awesome. Elena Haba, the former personal attorney for Donald Trump. And Trump sent her into New Jersey. She presently is the acting U.S. attorney in New Jersey. And there she is on Fox this afternoon. I caught her talking about how these Democrats are doing nothing more than grandstand, which is exactly what they're doing. And that gets back to what I said about, are you in or are you out? Because, folks, this change in America right now is something that is two-sided. It's Trump on one side with his ideas, and these Democrats on the other side with virtually nothing. And I didn't do this tonight to be so generic, but there are times during the course of these changes in America where you really have to get back to basics and take a look as we are. It's almost the middle of May. You're almost 4 months into the Trump presidency. And you've got to take a look at what's going on in America and say, are we on the right track or are we not on the right track? Here is Trump with a pocket full of ideas that he has and is trying to implement. Deportation, which, he's got this idea about free flights, $1,000 in cash. Remember, this was first proposed 13 years ago by Mitt Romney. And this is a marvelous idea for people that are here and want to get out of here, get them out. He's closed the borders. Nobody's getting across the borders. Tariffs, you're hearing a lot about, and they're working. Middle East peace, the Ukrainian problem, Doge, Elon Musk, the elimination of the education department. I can go on and on. All of these programs are programs that Trump wants to implement and wants to get them working for the betterment of America. And here we are this afternoon. I mean, my afternoon is interrupted by some goofy mayor in Newark, New Jersey, who is grandstanding. I mean, Elena Haba was right on the money. ICE is out there trying to do work that Americans want done. We want these thugs off the streets. Remember, your daughters, your parents, your granddaughters, they're on the streets of America. And so are these thugs from somewhere else in the world. And here's Trump trying to get rid of them. And people like the mayor of Newark, Cory Booker, I see Cory Booker and Phil Murphy, are outraged over the mayor getting arrested. Well, as Elena Haba said, that mayor wouldn't have been arrested if he wasn't grandstanding. And you've got to ask yourself, am I in or am I out? Because it is clear after nearly 4 months of the Trump administration what he's trying to do. What he's trying to do is crystal clear. He's trying to fix the problems in America. And the other side is showing up at places like ICE detention centers, as they did today in Newark, New Jersey, and trying to do what? Trying to get criminals out of jail or out of incarceration? It doesn't work. It's not working. So are you in or are you out tonight in America? Are you okay with Trump? You like what he's doing? You like what he's saying? Or do you think he's not on the right track? Is he or isn't he? I think he is. I think he is. And I am all in on him. All in on Trump because Trump is on the right track. You know, Trump is a guy who, you like him or you don't like him, right? If you're out there tonight, you're listening to me somewhere in America, and you're thinking, the guy's loony, I'd love to hear why you think that. Because I think this guy loves America. I think he's a true patriot. And I think what he's trying to do in America is get America back to where America needs to be. I'm good with Trump. And I'm good with Elena Haba and ICE down there in Newark, New Jersey this afternoon, arresting Ras Baraka and anybody else down there, including all these members of Congress, who go down there and talk about how mean everybody is to them. Are you kidding me? How mean they are to you. You can't be serious. But you are. They are serious. This is where they are. This is what they are. Whining about what's happening in the ICE detention center, okay? And I've got more on that I'm going to come back to. I also have a bit on Pope Leo tonight that we need to talk about, because there's parts of that story that are comfortable and not comfortable. And I will tell you this before I get into it. Pope Leo gets walked out to the balcony yesterday after the white smoke clears and the gates open to the balcony, the doors open to the balcony. It's walked out. I will tell you what bothered me the most. You ready? What bothered me was not a word of English. Not a word. Not even thank you. I would have loved to have heard thank you. And I brought it up on my program here in Albany this morning and got a lot of thoughts. Then I got off the air, and, of course, there's 30 emails. No, was there 30? No, there was probably about 25. About 25 emails, people that wanted to comment on. Because I didn't get the impression in watching the introduction yesterday of the new Pope that there was a lot of love there for America. I didn't get it, though it was the first American Pope ever named. And I want to talk a little bit about him this morning. And I want you to remember one thing about the Pope, okay? You look around the world. Sometimes people lose sight of this or don't know it. You look around the world, there's 1.4 billion with a B Catholics in the world. 1.4 billion, all right? 85 million here in the United States. 85 million. A lot of Catholics, a lot. This is a powerful, powerful man, and he's got work to do. And I want to talk a little bit about the work he's got to do tonight. Get your thoughts on that. And much more. Boy, I'll tell you another. How about Newark? How about the other story in Newark? About the airplanes, right? I want to touch on that a little bit. I'm going to bring you closer to home here on my front tonight, too, and tell you about the Attorney General in New York, something by the name of Letitia James, who is now being investigated by the U.S. Attorney's Office in a place called the Northern District of New York, which is pretty much where her office is here in Albany. And there's a criminal investigation going on into her. And if you think you've heard that name before, you have. She is the woman that tried Donald Trump on those crazy trumped-up charges that were brought against him that he was convicted of. And now she's in some deep doo-doo herself. And I'll tell you a little bit about her. And how about Jeanine Pirro? We'll touch on her a little bit, too. But right now, we are live. It is the Rich Valdez Show. My name is Paul Vandenburgh. I'm in Albany, New York. And by the way, for anybody out there in America that's listening, I am a Siena College graduate, closer to home, and live here in Albany. I also have a home in Palm Harbor, Florida. So if you're down there in Palm Harbor, you can reach out to us tonight, too. It's the Rich Valdez Show. We are live. We are here on the East Coast until midnight, and we are back in just a moment. Open Phone America. We're back. You're listening to Westwood One.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. now. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Back on the Rich Valdez Show from Albany, New York tonight. Rich will be back on Monday. I'm Paul Vandenburgh here on the Westwood One Radio Network tonight. We also know a couple of other things here I want to touch on, and I will get to you folks on the phone lines following the news at 9:30. But I mentioned here. Let me do the Letitia James here for just a moment, because this is, you almost want to say what goes around comes around, and it's very true. What you see here with this case, Letitia James is the Attorney General in New York State. And for those of you that aren't familiar with New York State is the land of the liberal. There's really three states. I think mostly you hear about, I think most people hear when it comes to liberalism about California. But it's not just California. It's New York, California, and really Illinois that are terribly liberal. And here in New York, the Democrats openly run nasty campaigns. And here, I'll give you one example of Letitia James. She ran a campaign for Attorney General in which one of her promises was, don't worry, I'll get Donald Trump. That was her campaign promise. That's what she ran on. And you heard that throughout the Trump trials, which she was behind. And, of course, there was no substance to any of the charges brought against Trump. There was none. It was a phony trial. It was a phony conviction. And you're going to get convictions like that in New York and in Washington, D.C. when you try Republicans, especially Trump, because they hate Trump. So they get this crazy conviction on Trump with basically no merit, no substance, and he's convicted of these numerous charges, which I don't think I have to get into again. And all this time, he's being tried in New York by an Attorney General, Letitia James, who we now find out, and this is the arrogance of these people, okay? We now find out through this open criminal investigation, that's a criminal investigation into her. But this is not trumped up charges like her and Alvin Bragg and others brought against Trump. There's a lot of substance here. You have falsified records to obtain favorable loans according to the Department of Justice. And she did these loans on homes that she purchased in Virginia back in 2023. And she also purchased a Brooklyn brownstone back in 2001. And at the same time, this is a woman who helped her father get a loan, or when her father did a loan, he used her name as his wife, and she used his name as her husband. I mean, she has the potential here of being charged with wire fraud, mail fraud, and bank fraud. And I'll tell you, these people have no shame at all. And we'll come back to her. Hopefully, they'll put the cuffs on her soon. But it's the Rich Valdez Show. Friday night in America, and I'm Paul Vandenburgh. You're back. We're back where you're listening on Westwood One.
Valdez. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, here we go. We're back. It's the Rich Valdez Show, Friday night, Open Phone America. Rich is off tonight. He's celebrating a family milestone. He'll be back on Monday night. I'm Paul Vandenburgh. We're in Albany, New York tonight. If you're a fan of Albany, New York, especially in the morning, and a lot of people come through Albany, New York because it's the capital of the state. And we've been doing mornings here, I have, for over 30 years. It's been great fun. It's just been tremendous. But as I said when I started, when I first got into the business, what I really wanted to do was 7 to midnight on a big station, because at night there's nothing like doing a talk show at night, because you're unencumbered to a great degree when it comes to the necessities of radio, commercials, etc. And there's always people out there that love to talk at night. And this will be no different tonight. From Albany this evening, I touched a little bit on I touched on Letitia James because it affects Trump. It affects Trump and what they tried to do to him. And of course, they're talking here in Albany about the weaponization of government under Trump, and that's why they're going after Letitia James. There are legitimate, and I know subpoenas are out, there are legitimate concerns about the mortgages she's been involved with over the years. And we will see where it goes. But the potential here, as I said, is wire fraud, mail fraud, and bank fraud. And at the same time, as I asked when we started, where are you in or are you out? I mean, are you okay with Trump or what he's trying to do? Are you not okay with Trump or what he's trying to do? I am. I'm very good with Trump. I like the direction. I like where he's going. And what we want is we want him to keep going. Our phone number here is 833, the number 4, Valdez. 833-482-5337. Let us take some phone calls, okay? And let us begin with Richie in San Francisco on the Rich Valdez Show, Friday Night in America. Richie, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. Go right ahead.
Well, I want to pay homage to you. First, your producer is a real nice guy. And I've talked a number of times on various talk shows. I appreciate, whether it was intentional or not, your homage to Larry King. I knew Larry pretty well, mentor. And Open Phone America and all that was part of me growing up in the 80s. And I love Larry King. It's a shame that he's not around anymore, but I love the fact that you brought it up, and he being on the overnight, and you remind me a lot in that regard. You even sound a little bit like him. That's a compliment.
Well, thank you. And I was a big fan of Larry's. I was a big fan of Jim's, and I got to know over the years. I didn't know Larry. I got to know Jim fairly well over the years, and Richie does a great job now. I mean, nighttime talk radio to me is really, really important, because there's so many people out there. They're busy during the day. They have a chance to converse at night, and it's always good. What's on your mind tonight, Rich?
Well, I'm a reformed. I told you, producer, I really haven't made. I'm kind of a public guy out here, but the Democratic Party that I grew up in, I'm almost ashamed now. Look, I am an unabashed supporter of America and Israel, and I like Trump for that. I did not vote for him, but if I could, I would rescind and vote for Trump. He is consistent. There are things that he does I'm not crazy about, but most of the things he's said he's going to do, and he stuck to his word. And I like what he does. I'm not crazy about certain things regarding the immigration debate and all that, but I agree with him wholeheartedly on that. There are things that I just cannot fathom being a Democrat anymore. And I'm going to be, at the very least, an independent. I don't have anything in common with the Democrats today. There's no person out there legitimate. Mm. These congresswomen up in Minnesota,
sure.
That's deplorable.
Well, that's Elian Omar. That's that gang up there. These are people.
I know.
These are people that look at even reporters trying to do their job, and they laugh. Richie, it's good to talk to you. Thank you. They laugh at them. They spit in their eye. They don't. And you saw today where one of the judges that Trump pulled from. His name escapes me. Some woman walked right up to him and spit on him. This is what we have in America today. This is why, everybody, it's important to remember what Trump is trying to do. This is the opposition. The opposition in America tonight is the Newark mayor, Ras Baraka, Bob Menendez Jr., Monica, what's her last name? Mabler? Is it Miller? Mabler? I apologize. And, of course, Bonnie Coleman. These are the people at Delaney Hall today in Newark getting arrested. These are elected officials. This is what's out there in America. This is what your Democrat Party gives you. It's a joke. It's just a joke. There's no, and I watched Kristi Noem speaking to a congressional committee yesterday. All right. I'm watching her speak to a congressional committee, and here she is going back and forth, the senator from Pennsylvania, or I'm sorry, from Maryland, who's running back and forth to San Salvador, doing everything he can to have an audience with a criminal who's been sent home. I mean, none of it makes any sense. But this is your Democrat Party today. These are the Democrats. This is why it is imperative that Trump continue doing what he's doing and trying to fix the problems in America. I just can't tell you, folks, how all in I am on him. And where are you this morning? I'm a 69-year-old American, and I think I've got a pretty good streak of patriotism in me. And you know, I'm anti-abortion. I'm anti a lot of things that the Catholic Church. I'm pro a lot of things the Catholic Church has stood for throughout the years, which brings us to the new Pope, right? And brings us to what he stands for. You know, it's kind of interesting. When you look at what Trump is doing, that's fantastic. I'm happy with him. But now here's a new Pope. And what's a little bit surprising about this new Pope this evening, before I get back to your calls, you can reach us at 833-4 Valdez, 833-482-5337. What's interesting about this Pope, okay, Pope Leo XIV, his name is Robert Prevost. Okay, he's from Chicago. We know all that. Went to Villanova, one of the great learning institutions in the country, Villanova. That's where he went. But do we really know enough about him right now? I'm a little bit concerned as a Catholic, practicing Catholic. Okay, and as I told you earlier, 85 million Catholics in the U.S., 1.4 billion with a B worldwide. All right, this is no small undertaking. But we really don't know what we've got here, do we? I don't sense that we do. I don't sense that we really have a good idea what he is yet. Now, we've read some things. We've read a lot of things about him, what he favors, what he doesn't favor. I know that there were reports the last couple of days that he's pro-life. He's very anti-abortion. But he's against the death penalty. He's against medically assisted suicide. And he wants better gun control in the country. He's also very close, when you look, he's very, very close to his predecessor, Pope Francis. And Pope Francis brought him to the Vatican and gave him a marvelous job selecting cardinals in the church. So he had a marvelous job. He had a great mentor, obviously, the Pope. Brought him here from Peru. And he worked under him. So you would imagine that what you're going to get from Pope Leo the 14th is a lot of what you probably saw from Pope Francis. And Pope Francis was a guy that was looked at as being a more conservative element, or a more progressive element of the Catholic Church. Very progressive. So what are we going to get now? Will this be a situation where this Pope Leo XIV, starts to move the church to a more conservative vein, or will he stay in the progressive route? I've got a couple of thoughts on that, too, which we will get to in a moment. All right, but this is the Rich Valdez Show. Rich is off celebrating a family milestone. He'll be back on Monday night. I'm Paul Vandenburgh. We're in Albany, New York, and we're back in a moment. You're listening to Westwood One.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
We are back. Good evening. From Albany, New York tonight. How about this, huh? My name is Paul Vandenburgh. My radio station is WGDJ. G is in George, D is in David, J is in John. We're in Albany, New York. And do not be afraid to download our app, which is in the App Store at talk1300.com, talk1300.com. And you find me here every Monday through Friday morning, 5:30 until 10. You'll find Rich Valdez back here on Monday night at 9 o'clock Eastern. A couple quick things here. I want to get back to the Pope, but there's a couple things I want to get in here that annoy me. One in particular, the Menendez brothers. They're going to have a hearing next week. And, these guys might get out of jail. They might get out of jail. Hearing next week. It's going to take 2 days, it looks like. All right. And this is always for people that are in Albany that listen to me in the morning. This is something that I really rail against. And I'll tell you what I mean. I don't know where you are in the country. I know this is a national show. And you could be in Utah, you could be in Maine, you could be in Texas listening right now, or Mexico. And I'd be curious to ask you, do you pick up the local newspaper on any given day and see that somebody that got convicted of something 18 to 25 years ago all of a sudden is getting out of jail? Well, it goes on here in Albany much more than you'd like to know. In fact, we just had another one within the last 2 weeks where all of a sudden some slug who killed somebody 20 years ago didn't do it. Or, we overcharged him. Maybe with the DNA, he didn't get enough peanut butter when he was a kid. And all of a sudden, these people are getting out of jail. So the slug, the murderer, the rapist, the guy that got a long sentence, all of a sudden, 15, 20 years later, some do-gooder is out there getting them out of jail. And in this case a couple of weeks ago, and I'm seeing this more and more, there are cases where people that were on the jury, the DA, the prosecutor at the time, are still alive, and they're still here. And they're standing at the courthouse steps saying, this is all wrong. This guy shouldn't get out of jail. He should stay in jail. But the left loves this. The media loves this. They made a mistake. Well, nobody made a mistake. He should stay in jail. Well, that's what you got with the Menendez brothers, who during the course of their trial 33 years ago admitted, it came out in open court, that they went out to the car, reloaded, went back in and killed mama. Okay? And what are we going to do here? We're going to let them out of jail. And that's where this is going, everybody. That's where this is going. These two slugs that murdered their parents are going to get out of jail. And it's hard to, and remember now, they're going to have a hearing next week in which I'm sure the governor is hoping that they get out of jail. They get resentenced. This is a beauty now. They call it resentencing. All right? These punks who go out and commit murders and rapes, they get resentenced. And, we're going to resentence you to 5 years, but you've already served 10, so you can go home now. This is the garbage you get. And the media loved it. They love this because, number one, it makes cops and prosecutors look bad. Hey, they sent him to jail for the wrong reasons. He shouldn't have gone to jail. Well, these Menendez brothers should never get out of jail. But remember, the governor is also on record out there in California as saying that he is going to do something about them next month if the courts don't do something next week. So if they don't get out next week, they're probably going to get out next month. All this because Netflix did a series on these two punks. These are two guys that should never get out of jail. They're going to get out one way or another because the media, they're going to be met with open arms, GoFundMe pages, everything. This is another problem in America. 25, 30 years after the sentence, whether it's extended life or a life sentence, somebody out there is looking for a reason to get these punks out of jail, and it's wrong. They're sentenced, they should stay in jail, and they should die there if they're sentenced to life. These two guys they killed their parents for the money. They should not get out of jail at all, but they're going to. They're either going to get out next week or the governor's going to get them out. You watch. It's going to happen. And folks, again, as I started off by pointing out, this goes on here in New York more often than I care to talk to or speak to. I'm sorry. And again, just in the last 3 months, it's come up twice. Somebody's getting out of jail because of some do-gooder. It's wrong. These people, when they're sentenced, should stay in jail for their term. We are on the Westwood One Radio Network tonight. It's the Rich Valdez Show. I'm Paul Vandenburgh in Albany, New York, and we are back. Open phone America. You're listening to Westwood One.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
America at Night, everybody. Coming to you tonight from Albany, New York. My name is Paul Vandenburgh, and we will get back to your calls after the top of the hour, okay? Our phone number, 833-482-5337, 833, the number 4, Valdez. You know, before, and I knew it would come, but before I came on tonight, I was reading a couple of stories burying Judge Jeanine Pirro. And you knew that was coming. She now is the U.S. Attorney for D.C. as Donald Trump had to move on from his first election, which I can come back to. But I just really wanted to point out that Judge Jeanine used to be a district attorney here in New York, down in a place called Westchester County, which is a very suburban county that's right outside of New York City. And she was the district attorney down there for 3 terms and ran back in, I want to say 23, 24 years ago for Senate. And at the time ran against then Senator Hillary Clinton. And I remember when Judge Jeanine ran, she came to the radio station I worked at. We talked for about 45 minutes, got to know her a little bit back then. Always found her to be very sharp, very good with the law, understood her way around politics. And I was not at all surprised that Trump named her to be the U.S. Attorney for D.C. In fact, I have to admit I was a little bit surprised that Trump didn't get her in before now, because she's always been so loyal to the family and so important to them. But she's a part of the administration, and already I noticed on one of the websites tonight, they're killing her as being Trump's worst decision. You know, it just really shows how people, if they hate on you, they hate on you. Because Jeanine Pirro is a very good choice for that job, an excellent choice, and she'll do a very good job. And I will take some phone calls when we come back. It's America at Night. Rich Valdez's America at Night. Open phone America. And we are back on the Westwood One Radio Network.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez. America's favorite late night talk program featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
America at Night. And I apologize, Rich Valdez is not here tonight. Rich celebrated a family milestone. We'll share all that with you when he returns on Monday. In the meantime, from Albany, New York, I'm Paul Vandenburgh. And we are on the phone lines with you folks at 833-482-5337. I will tell you yesterday, and there's so much about this Pope I want to talk about. But let me tell you what bothered me yesterday. You ready? What bothered me was there was absolutely no chatter at all that this would be an American Pope that would be named. There was nothing. Zero. In fact, the only name that really got mentioned when it came to the States was Cardinal Dolan. Okay? But if you're in New York, and he, of course, is a cardinal in New York, Dolan's a guy that's he's pretty good about getting Cardinal Dolan on TV. He's accessible to a lot of TV, etc. And I never thought that really worked. The big personality cardinal who, is all over TV. I wasn't sure that would play with him being named Pope. Okay, and he was the only guy you really heard about here in the States. So all of a sudden, here comes the white smoke, and here's Robert Francis Prevost from Chicago. Huh? Who's this guy? Right? Pope Leo XIV he is. Oh, my word. Where did he come from? All right. You talk about a backbencher. Nobody even heard his name. But then you find out about all the things that he had been doing with Francis, how Francis brought him to the Vatican from Peru. And by the way, Leo XIV is a Peruvian citizen. He became a citizen down there. And so here he is, the Pope Leo XIV. And I'm thinking to myself, I know nothing about this guy, but I know I'm a Catholic. And as I told you earlier, I'm a Siena graduate back here in Albany, New York. Siena, where you'll find the Franciscans, what's left of them. Okay? And now we've got an American Pope, and I'm thrilled. I'm an old man. I grew up in a pro-Catholic household, grew up in the Catholic Church. Catholic religion is what I've known all my life. Wow, look at this. So you're waiting. Now I'm waiting. I'm watching everybody gather in St. Peter's Square, and here comes more people. You can see the excitement. It's building. And all of a sudden, here comes the balcony doors opening up. And we get the little speech, and here he is. Robert Francis Prevost, Pope Leo XIV. And what do we get from him? We get a little speech in Italian, a little speech in English. Or no, I'm sorry, excuse me. A little Italian, a little Spanish. And I'm thinking, where's the English? This is an American Pope. He's from Chicago. Give me a little English, will you? Throw me a thank you. I'm not expecting, hey, I want to shoot a little hello to my bros back in Chicago. Or I want to do a shout out to the people in Chicago. We're not expecting that. But I'm thinking to myself, give me a little English here, will you? And I get nothing. I get the Italian. I get the Spanish. Come on, throw me a bone. Give me a little thank you, something like that. Nothing. No English. Wow. Now, this morning he did Mass in English. He did a Mass in English. In fact, I believe that it was picked up. I believe it was picked up by I think Fox picked it up. I'm pretty sure they did. Good job by them. But here's my man. Oh my God, we've got an American Pope. I'm thinking to myself, because I'm looking at the odds. And by the way, the Catholic League, and who's the spokesperson? I believe his name is Donahue, Mr. Donahue. And I apologize, but I'm pretty sure that's his name. He does a spectacular job. Okay? And I caught him last week on television. And I thought he was tremendous in talking about the next Pope. Bill Donahue is his name. I apologize. Bill Donahue. And Bill Donahue is on Fox. I'm watching him. And he's talking about the next Pope. And he's talking about how the last thing you want at this point is a Pope from Europe. We don't need it anymore. In fact, folks, one thing you should know about Europe is the numbers in Europe. The Catholic numbers are down significantly in Europe. But here's 3 Italians who potentially could be the Pope. And Donahue is talking, and I trust this Donahue. He's excellent, of the Catholic League. And I'm listening to him. And he's talking specifically about Africa. And he's talking about, and if you look at Africa right now, since the last numbers that came out in 2022, 7.5 million more Africans now are Catholic. 7.5 million. Okay? And there's Bill Donahue talking about how the next Pope should really be African. And I'm liking what I'm hearing because there's so much damage in this country. The pedophile priest, the payoffs, all of it. There's so much damage. And somebody's got to step out here and fix this problem. And here's Donahue talking about the African bishops. And I did a little research after that, and I'm looking, and you look at these African bishops, and they're not, these aren't progressives, okay? This isn't Pope Francis. These are guys that when it comes to same-sex marriage, divorce, even cohabitating outside of marriage, they're not happy about it. And that's why Bill Donahue of the Catholic League was so intense. Well, intense might be strong, okay? He was so good, though, about defining where the region of the world where the next Pope should come from. But I don't think even Bill Donahue saw this. No, who saw this? Nobody. Pope Leo XIV. But when you look at his ascension to the Vatican from Peru, you could see where he was brought into the mix by Francis. And it's also interesting, too, that, a lot of the experts said it would take less than 3 days. And as I'm looking and charting this, I'm thinking, 3 days? How can you get it done that quick? But it's clear that Francis made it clear to the cardinals who he wanted next. And he got him. Pope Leo XIV, Robert Francis Prevost. And I think Chicago was thrilled. I think they were. I saw the Cubs put up something at Wrigley Field about the next Pope, thinking he was a Cub fan. He's not. White Sox fan. But, there's a lot about him that's questionable, too. But there's a little bit about that I want to get into. But I got people on the phone. All right. Well, let us do this. It's the Rich Valdez Show. It's Friday night. Open Phone America. I'm Paul Vandenburgh. We're in Albany, New York. Speaking of phones, I'm going to go to them next. You folks stay right there, and we'll come back. We'll get to you next. You're listening to Westwood One.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. This is America. This is Night. This is Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Friday night in America, everybody. America at Night, the Rich Valdez Show. I'm Paul Vandenburgh in Albany, New York, sitting in for Rich tonight, celebrating a family milestone. He'll be back on Monday, and I'm doing something I always do wrong. I'm not getting to the calls. Let's get to them at 833-482-5337. We'll start with Larry. Larry's in Charleston, South Carolina. Larry, how are you tonight?
I'm very good, and you're going to love me because I'm going to be one of your greatest calls ever. And what I have to say is that I've realized that the way to separate two belligerent parties so you can have peace, as if you had in a household between a man and a woman fighting, is to separate the belligerents. And what has to happen in Gaza is for the it's for the Palestinians who have lost to leave Gaza, and they can go to Saudi Arabia, who the United States under Trump has good relationship with the Abraham Accords and buying many of our military aircraft, and also in the offing to buy F-35s out there at the present time, that this is a wonderful opportunity to have a peaceful exodus of the Arab Palestinians to peace in Saudi Arabia. The Saudis need the labor, and the Palestinians need the productive work opportunities.
Yep.
And they both speak Arabic.
Right.
I happened to see a starving girl on the internet. Her name was Rasha in Gaza, and she was a emancipated skeleton, reminiscent of the Nazi death camps. Starving children today is too inhuman, and it's just as bad as when it happened in Nazi Germany.
Okay, now hold on now. You're talking about starving children where?
In Gaza.
Okay, I got it. Go ahead.
Google starving children in Gaza and look at these children who are like the starved to death corpses. You could see their ribs, their sunken faces. Her little arms had no meat on them; they were just skin.
Yeah. Well,
bones.
Listen, this is a product, and I'm glad you called. Thank you. This is a product of war. Okay, that's what's been going on over there for a long time. You look as far as Palestinians getting elsewhere. You've got about 2.5 million right now in Jordan. Okay, and that's a United Nations number, by the way, that I use. But you got about 2.5 million in Jordan. You got about 500,000 in Lebanon. That's 3 million people right there that have been displaced. Gaza is a disaster, a real disaster. And I know that, I've been talking about popes tonight. And I know that Pope Francis had denounced Gaza and what's going on there. And I noticed Bibi Netanyahu didn't go to his funeral. And I'm sure one had to do with the other. But, the whole Gaza mess, it just keeps getting... Listen, it's been going on forever. And I know Trump is trying to make peace there, but others have too. You take a look at the previous administrations for the last 40 years, starting with Reagan. We have sent people over and over and over. Trump did a great job, but, are we going to get it solved over there or not? We can only hope that we do. Many have tried. Okay, and Larry, I'm glad you called. Let me talk next to Casey. Casey is in Coachella, California, here on the America at Night program. Rich Valdez. Casey, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. How are you, Rich?
It's good to hear from you.
Yeah, hey, thank you for taking my call. Hey, man, I just wanted to express how excited I am that there is, for the first time, USA Pope. I thought when I found out this morning that, there was a USA Pope making a prayer in the square over there in Italy.
Right.
I was just really touched. But
Yep.
I've been working as a mechanic for Land Rover for a long time, so I'm a bit of a royalist, and I do love our partners across the pond in England. And one of the things that I hope that the Pope does is visit with the King of England, because I think there's a real connection for humanity between the Pope and the King of England as being connected to God. And I just really hope he takes some time, like really early, to visit with him, and then have him like over in the United States and cruise around his Pope Mobile. As far as following popes, I was really touched by Pope John Paul. Everybody loved him. But Leo to me is like a lion, and I really think that we need a lion for religion today,
right.
Especially Christianity. So I'm just ecstatic right now. I'm so hopeful for the world.
I have to. I think you should be. And here, let me give you a little bit. Let me give you something that I see so far in this Pope. Okay, Pope Leo XIV is a guy who's on record as he said. Pope Leo XIV, Robert Francis Prevost, he said once, quote, "You've got to be." I'm quoting him here. "You've got to be close to those who are suffering," unquote. And he spent over 10 years in Peru. Became, as I told you earlier, a Peruvian citizen. Okay, but when I read him say that you got to be close to those who are suffering, that's a little bit of Mother Teresa, don't you think? I think so.
Yeah,
I sense.
Mother Teresa was another beautiful figure.
Yeah, I sensed Mother Teresa in that commentary. Now I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not wrong. But I also sense from some things that come out of him that he is there's some conservatism in him too. He allegedly is against the homosexual lifestyle. He's against alternative families comprised of same-sex partners and adopted children. These are things he's allegedly against. I don't know. This is one thing, and I'm glad you called. Thank you very much. This is one thing about these guys. You would like to, and I got into this earlier, I'll do it again. You'd like to know where they stand on issues, almost like a politician. But you don't. You're never quite sure until you see how they act. And let's see what he does. Let's see what he does. One of the things I'm sensing already, though, and watching the public respond is be careful responding to him like you do Trump or other politicians. Is he like this? Is he like that? He's not going to make legislation. That's not what he's here for. But what he is here for, hopefully, is to fix the flock. The 1.4 billion with a B Catholics around the world. There's a lot of work to be done. I mean, there's so much work to be done. It's overwhelming. We'll see how he does. Is he off to a good start? Well, he would have been off to a better start if he spoke a little English yesterday from the balcony, right? We're in Albany, New York. I'm Paul Vandenburgh, and we're back on the Westwood One Radio Network.
Seven 833-4Valdez. That's Valdez with an S.
We are back. Good evening. Open Phone America. It's America at Night. Rich Valdez is off celebrating a family milestone. He's back on Monday. I'm Paul Vandenburgh in Albany, New York at WGDJ. You can download our app. And I do mornings here. I've done mornings in this market for 31 years. And it's been a long time since I did a nighttime talk show, which I did when I first got into the business. Loved it then. And, an hour and a half into this, I could do a few more hours of this. This is fun. Our phone number here is 833-482-5337. Let me stay with your phone calls. Got a lot of people waiting. Paul is next up on the on America at Night, the Rich Valdez Show. Paul, how are you tonight? Okay, let's then let us speak next to Philip. Philip is in Herndon, Virginia. Philip, how are you?
Yeah. Hello, Mr. Vandenburgh.
Hi, how are you?
pleasure listening to you. You're a even-keeled, disinterested, in the best sense of that word, host. It's a real pleasure. So I was thinking, you remember Bill Swirsky and the Superfans?
No, I do not. I'm sorry.
From the Saturday Night Live skit, the Three Bears guys sitting in a South Chicago pub, eating Polish sausage and drinking beers and saying, "The Bears."
I don't remember that specifically, but I've heard about what you're talking about. Go ahead.
So anyway, I'm imagining those three guys sitting there, in the South Chicago pub, saying, "Hey, remember little Bobby Prevost there, that guy from our neighborhood we used to give swirlies to? Yeah. Well, he's the Pope." And they all raise their beers and say, "The Pope." And then they go on about, "Do you think the Bears could beat the Pope?" And "Nah, we got to say the Pope." And anyway, all the people listening might remember that skit on Saturday Night Live. And I'm just really thrilled that we have an American Pope, and he's from South Side of Chicago. I love it. I'm a Midwesterner, and I never thought I'd see the day of an American Pope. And God bless him. I hope the Holy Spirit guides him and not ideology, and he guards faithfully the deposit of the Holy Catholic Church.
Philip, there have been a lot of depictions related to what you're describing on X for the last 48 hours. Did you follow X?
I do, yeah. I saw some hilarious ones, like places in South Chicago with Latin about, "He used to eat our dogs here," in Latin, and very funny. Yeah, Chicago is going crazy right now. I mean, it's a wonderful day for all Americans, for all the world, all Catholics. I think I'm a traditionalist Catholic. I'm a little worried that he shut out Bishop Strickland down in Texas and whatnot, but he did choose Leo XIV in honor, I think, of Leo XIII, who was one of the great popes who wrote that amazing encyclical in 1890, Rerum Novarum, which found a middle path between the moral evil of communism and the social evils of extreme capitalism. And I think that's a really important intellectual achievement of the church that has gone a little bit not by the wayside. And he has so much. We have so much to offer the world: the intellectual, philosophical tradition, let alone the spiritual and liturgical tradition of the church. And I hope that comes out with this pope.
Well, just like you're watching Trump try to fix America, that's what Leo has an opportunity to do. Pope Leo, he has an opportunity. And what he has to do, one of the first things I think, Philip, he's got to do is he has to address head on this pedophile tragedy that's been taking place in the church all these years. He's got to face it head on, apologize for it, get the problem solved, and try to get the church back on track. Because, again, you've still got 1.4 billion with the B members of the Catholic Church. And you can see the growth in Africa. You can see the growth in both North and South America, even Asia. You take a look at the last counting in Asia, over 1 million people have come to the Catholic Church. I mean, it is still the dominant place in the world that people go to when they want religion, when they want to cleanse their soul. And this has got to be dealt with. Nobody has wanted to deal with this up till now on the local level or the international level. I hope he does.
Benedict started, and then it got derailed by Francis, unfortunately, and I hope he picks up where Benedict left off. I agree with you, because it's distracting us from the greatest gift of the church. Is she is the intellectual center of the Western world. She literally was there at every single debate, political, philosophical, psychological, since Rome fell. So she is essential if we in the West are going to preserve. I mean, forget just the Christianity. That's important, of course, but even to non-Christians, if we want the West to survive, the Catholic Church is, whether you like it or not, at the center of Western Christendom, and she needs to be strong.
I agree with you, and thank you very much for calling. I couldn't agree with you more. The Catholic Church, because so many people depend on it, turn to it for their beliefs. Look in America. Look at the baby boomers in America, okay? I'll pick on them a little bit because I'm one of them. Look at the amount of baby boomers that were raised in the Catholic Church, Catholic schools. You look around America, and there's plenty of evidence of those children that were raised in Catholic schools. You find a majority of them never had trouble in their lives. Now, I'm sure a lot of them had good parents too, but at the same time, Catholicism has worked throughout the years in America, and it works around the world. And boy, I just couldn't agree more with those of you that that are talking about what a shock it was to see an American elected pope. My only concern in waiting for the white smoke was whether or not they go back to Europe for another Italian pope, of which there were 3 in contention, or whether they would do as the folks at the Catholic League suggested, look more into Africa. They didn't. They looked at the States, to somebody whose name wasn't even around. And the question becomes now, okay, in what direction will Leo take the church? What direction? That's the question. You've got Francis, who really didn't do enough. Francis was blessing same-sex couples. That made a lot of people in the church uncomfortable. He favored global capitalism. He was also a climate guy, and so is Leo, by the way. But they both were. Where will the church go now? We'll see. But the idea for people out there that don't realize the power of the Catholic Church, it is powerful. Powerful. 1.4 billion people around the world. That's a big number, folks. That's a big number. A lot of Catholics in the world. This is America at Night. Here's our phone number. I'm Paul Vandenburgh, and I'm talking to you tonight from Albany, New York. A proud Siena graduate, by the way. And I should also point out that it's been a really big 48 hours for Villanova University. Huh? How about that? How about one of your graduates being named Pope? How about that? I know Chicagoans are happy, but how about the folks at Villanova? Wow, what a day for them. Our phone number here is 833-482-5337. America at Night. Rich will be back on Monday. You're listening to Westwood One.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
America at Night coming to you from Albany, New York this evening. I'm Paul Vandenburgh, and we are on the phone lines, folks. If you would like to speak with me, you may. Our phone number, 833-482-5337. 833-482-5337. It's interesting how a Pope conversation breaks out every once in a while on talk radio, but the truth is, when a new Pope gets named, this is when there's a lot of chatter about it, a lot of chatter. Pope Leo XIV, and what direction will he go in? What direction? Plus, he'll be 70 years old. How long will he be Pope? What are we looking at? 12, 15 years maybe? Is that what it is? And he is a dual citizen of both the U.S. and Peru. Will he lean more towards Peruvian issues than American issues? He did, yesterday he didn't speak any English, any English at all. So I don't know where his heart lies at this point. I don't know. Will he come to the States? We'll see. I would imagine it, and it's not easy to do, but I would imagine that maybe a trip to Chicago might be nice, maybe on the agenda. I'm not sure. I am not certain, but we will see. We'll be watching. Let me take some more phone calls here. It's America at Night. Rich Valdez will be back on Monday. Let me talk next to, how about Scott in Boston? Scott's over in Boston this evening. Scott, how are you tonight?
I'm great. How are you?
It's a pleasure to talk. Go right ahead.
Well, there's a reason why you're filling in, because you rock, okay? And they wouldn't have you there because you know what you were doing. You're very intelligent. You're on the par with all of them. And, thank you for hosting tonight. You were talking about the Pope, and I'm glad we finally have an American Pope. I don't know how that's going to play out, but I'm like 60. When I was growing up as a kid, I was an altar boy. I didn't get altered, but I was an altar boy, and and we believed in the Catholic Church, and a Pope thing was a big deal. And it is a big deal. But now we have an American Pope. We'll see how it works out. But I just wanted to call and I don't know how he's going to work out with Trump, and I hope he comes to America many times. I remember when the Pope came down, I was going to Boston University, and the Pope was driving the Popemobile. He had his dome car. We threw snowballs at him just for fun, going to BC. He was up there. But, the whole deal is this. Listen, thank you so much for hosting. You're
okay.
super
I got
intelligent.
hold on now. Before you go, I got one question for you. You ready? Tell me how did Boston react today to an American Pope? They must have been happy, right?
Definitely. Everybody was happy, and, Chicago is a shot away, so everybody was happy. America's American. And,
right.
And I hope he has a huge impact. Because, America kind of sets the stage for a lot of things, but he was in Peru. He was everywhere. This guy's a genius, There's no stupid popes, you know what I mean? No. They're all geniuses over God, So God bless them, and
we'll see how it works. Thank you, Scott. We'll see how it works out. I hope that he's aggressive. I hope he's 70 years old. I hope he's aggressive. I hope he comes up with and devises a direction to take the church in. We will see. He's got a lot of work to do. He's got a lot of work to do with his flock, which is worldwide. Just as Trump has so much work to do here in the States. So much work to do. And for those of you out there, I asked you when I started tonight, are you all in? Are you in or are you out with Trump? Because I look at what he does, and I remember 10 years ago when he ran the first time, I was all in. I've always been, there's a period when I wasn't all in on Trump, but a very short period because I wasn't sure he could get reelected. But he did. He did. He's done a great job. But you look at him 10 years ago when all this started, and everybody used the term the escalator. He came down the escalator. I wanted a businessman then. I still do now. And you look at Doge and what Doge is doing. Now, Trump has got himself into a little sticky wicket in the last 24 hours with this idea of taxing the rich to cover things like no tax on tips and other things that he's taken on. But he'll get away from that. He's very good about floating trial balloons. But we need business people to run this country, managers. We lack good managers in government. We've got all kinds of people that run for office, get elected, but they can't manage. We need managers. I look around right here where I am at some of the county executives, and the ones that do the best job are the good managers. And that's what you find in government. People that came out of the private sector and can manage do a great job. This is America at Night. I'm Paul Vandenburgh in Albany, New York. Take your phone calls. 833-482-5337. We're back. You're listening to Westwood One.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. for Valdez. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4Valdez. That's Valdez with an S.
I'm Paul Vandenburgh, in for Rich Valdez, who'll be back on Monday night. And this is Open Phone America on America at Night. And we're going to stay with your phone calls here. Let's talk to Frank in Evergreen, Montana this evening. Frank, how are you tonight?
Pretty good. You're a good speaker, Paul.
Thank you.
I want to. I get an echo right now. I don't know why. Can you tune that out? There, I don't hear myself now. Okay, you can hear me well?
I can hear you just fine. Go right ahead.
Okay, great. Okay. I don't trust the new Pope because of his stand on disarmament of the firearms. He doesn't seem to me sticking up for America's rights, our freedoms, our liberties. He's just taking kind of a different focus on the world view of us. And when you look at where he's been in Peru, it's a more violent crime rate than the United States ever was. It's a murder, one of the top 10 in the world for murders, with and the terrorists and the cocaine dealing and all sorts of chaos, organized crime, the same criminals in Venezuela and all through those areas, that we're fighting right now that are invading our country. If he wants just to take a shot at us, just because there was one time a schizophrenic with a rifle down in Vegas, that's the reason we have to disarm the United States. I say I would advise him to probably drink some Kool-Aid and do some assisted suicide, him and his flock. Get the flock out of the United States.
I don't get the impression, though, that he wants to disarm America. I believe that he is another one of these misguided souls that talks about gun control, okay? And when you talk about gun control in America, you're talking about, in many cases, simply controlling the arms that people that abide by the law own. You want to know who owns how many guns in what neighborhood. Wait a minute. Those are the people that in a majority of the cases aren't committing crime. Crimes are committed by people with illegal guns. So this idea that we're going to come up with some way to minimize gun use, and thank you for calling, based on more control over legal abiding citizens in this country that own guns, is I've always felt quite misguided, very misguided. I'm glad you called. It's America at Night. Hour 2 in the books. Hour number 3 coming up. We're with you until midnight Eastern, and this is Westwood One.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Rich is off tonight, celebrating a family milestone. He'll tell you about it Monday when he returns to America at Night. In the meantime, final hour for me. I'm Paul Vandenburgh. I'm in Albany, New York at WGDJ, Talk 1300, where I do the morning show. Each morning from 5:30 until 10. For over 30 years I've done it. It's been great fun. It's great fun being here tonight. This has been terrific. I told you in the beginning, if you weren't with me, my origins in talk radio, in my back when I started, I did nights, and I loved it. I loved it. And early in my career, I was doing nights, and I had a chance to do afternoons somewhere, which I did, which was also great. And then I was asked to go on mornings, and God knows you don't know how long it'll last, but I did it because they were very kind to me about it. And 31 years later, I'm still doing mornings, but missing nights. I haven't done a nighttime talk show in over 30 years. This has been fun. This has been really good. I enjoy this very much because at night, you're not encumbered by things you have to do in radio, like a whole lot of breaks, traffic, and all those things. And you can simply take phone calls, which is great fun. And our phone number here is 833-482-5337. In fact, let me practice what I preach, get right back to the phones here. We'll start with Paul. And Paul, did I get this right? Is it Albany, Arizona? Is that where you are?
Globe, like globe of the earth.
I got it. Thank you very much for calling.
Globe, Arizona.
Thank you.
I have a question about this Pope. I think he's from the same vein as the other Pope who advocated open borders. There's plenty of walls around that Vatican that can be torn down and let the poor of the earth pour in to the Vatican and seek refuge, food, clothing, shelter, transportation, medicine, and all the rest that he expects to inflict upon the people of the United States. You know, people who live in glass houses should not throw stones. I mean, the record of the Catholic Church during World War II in cooperation with Hitler and Mussolini is a very questionable record, and that should be dug into before these so-called popes start advocating all these progressive ideas and inflicting them on other nations. They should first look in the mirror at their own Vatican, tear down all those big walls, open up the doors, all the vast money they have, and they have a lot of questionable investments that are coming under scrutiny, and the way they create Catholics is something else. They take a baby after he's 3 days old, they baptize him. He's a Catholic. He has nothing to say about it. And to get to be denounced the Catholic faith is quite an intimidating process. So this figure of 1.4 billion, I think, is greatly inflated. There are a lot of Catholics that don't even practice that religion anymore because of all of this hypocrisy.
Well, remember, though, if you ask them what their religious selection is, they're Catholic. That's what they are. And all religions have probably a massive amount of people, not probably, all religions have a massive amount of people who aren't practicing. Now, when you talk about babies being baptized, that at that point in their life is a choice of the parents. You know, Catholicism has, and you didn't even touch on the pedophile priest. That's been the biggest problem here in the last generation, the pedophile priest. So if you're going to look at the issues in and the outstanding problem, the biggest problem in the Catholic Church right now, that is it. That's got to be clarified. But I still think when you get to the tenets of the church, when you get to what they stand for, and certainly what I was taught, the Catholic Church is still a marvelous place.
Well, they've changed a lot. They've liberalized their doctrine, and a lot of these folks
I agree.
in Latin America,
and that's not fair.
And that's not flood the United States.
Well, this is what we're talking about with Francis throughout the course of the night. You know, and what concerns me about Francis and his progressive attitude with so many things is that his hand-selected guy is Leo. And there seems to be some disagreements between them that would move the church in back to a more conservative vein. But let's see if he puts them in place. Let's see what he does, because you're right. The watering down of the Catholic Church has been going on for a generation.
Yes, because they have to get more members, so they have to compromise, and they have.
I don't think so. I don't think that's the reason. I think the reason is the individual ideology of these cardinals and bishops. That's the reason right there. We've watched it right here where I live, a local bishop who's been very left of center, very left of center. Okay, so you go to church. You know, you're taught what the church stands for in your youth. You grow up, you understand what it is, and all of a sudden you're 30, 35 years old, and you're hearing something different when you're sitting in Mass. What is this all about? Where'd this come from? You know, I thought we were anti-abortion. I thought we were pro-family. And you're getting a very different message. And that's the individuals that run the dioceses and that run this is really a local issue, I believe, in the Catholic Church, because I've watched it here for a long time.
Well, I'm glad you hit upon some of those other points, but they have to, if you live in a glass house, you don't throw stones.
I agree.
And I think the Catholic Church needs to look in the mirror and see what is wrong with the Catholic Church before they profess, their liberal agenda.
Paul, I do not, and I'm glad you called. Thank you. I do not disagree. That's why I brought it up earlier, that one of the things that Leo has got to do is he has to address the pedophiles inside the church, and he's got to deal with it head on. He's got to tell the flock what he's doing, and he's got to make it work. He's got to make it happen. It's the same, and I use Trump as the example because Trump's in the same boat. You got to have a plan. You got to carry it through. You got to make it work. That's what he has to do. I don't disagree with a lot you're saying, and I'm glad you called. Tony in Silver Springs, Maryland. We'll talk to Tony next here on America at Night. Tony, how you doing?
Doing pretty good here, Paul. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
I have a question about the new pope. Now, first of all, I'm Protestant, but I married into a Catholic family, so I kind of know what's going on.
Sure.
But what can the pope do, the new pope do, in a particular issue he can focus on to bring people back to the church? Everywhere you go, United States, Europe, church attendance is going down. I know on the Protestant side, there's apologetics has become a big movement with people like William Lane Craig. But, we're a fresh start. New pope, what can he do to grab the attention of people and, no pun intended, make church normal again? Get people going back to church.
Okay. He's got to deal with the issue I've been bringing up. Pedophiles in the Catholic Church. That's what he has to do. And he has to assure the flock that it's over. And when you find pedophiles, you don't take them from one parish and move them across town. You don't take them from one parish and move them downstate or upstate. They go. They're out. That's what has to be done. He will garner the respect of everybody in the church if he cleans up that mess. That's where it starts. That's where it starts. And if you get back after that, if you could simply get back to the fundamental teachings of the church, that would help a lot. But again, as I told the previous caller, you see a lot of this. It's, the Catholic Church to a degree is kind of like politics. You get to the local level, you hear the term rhinos all the time in the Republican Party. You find these rhinos all over the country. Let me tell you, we have a county here in upstate New York, Saratoga County, which for years you've been told is a big bastion for Republicans. Really? Kamala Harris carried the county last year because the rhinos have taken over the county. Well, you see a lot of that in the church, too. You look at these local dioceses, we've seen it here for years, where they get some lefty running it, some left of center bishop, and all of a sudden everything's out of whack. All the teachings are misguided. You have to get back to the fundamental teachings of the church. And you can do a comparison when you talk about this. And Tony, I'm glad you called. Thank you. You can do a comparison here tonight. And I'm not trying to tell you that one is exactly like the other, but you can do a little bit of a comparison here as to what's going on nationally in this country and what's going on internationally with the church. It's gotten out of whack. It's off kilter. Look what Trump's doing, and look at what you hope Leo will do. These operations have got to be fixed. They've got to be fixed. And it's a lot of work. That's why, when I tell you about Trump and I ask you, are you in or are you out? Look at the list of Trump, what he's doing. Tariffs, deportations. He's got problems in the Middle East. He's got the January 6th pardons. You got the Ukraine-Russia situation. He took away the birthright citizenships, Doge, Elon, transfers, or banning transgender, in women's sports. The education department. On top of all that, the guy nearly gets assassinated. That's real work, everybody. That's going to work every day and doing the job. That's what he does. And that's what Leo has to do. You have the United States of America and you have the Catholic Church. They're both in rough shape. They're both in rough shape. They both, right now, need leadership. They're screaming for leadership. And I'm of the opinion that I'm very comfortable with who's running America. I'm fine with Trump. He's doing his job. I hope Leo does the same. I hope he does. I hope it works out. We'll see. We're watching. Robert Francis Prevost is Pope Leo XIV's name. Why couldn't he have given us a little bit of English yesterday? Maybe a little thank you when he was standing up there. I kept thinking maybe he'll break out into a little bit of English here. He didn't. He gave us the Italian. He gave us the Spanish. Come on. Come on, give me a little English here. And I'm still wondering if maybe, just maybe, they call him the American Pope. The American Pope. And you know what that means? That means North and South. Okay? They weren't calling him the American Pope because he's from Chicago. They called him the American Pope because he has dual citizenry, North and South America. They were talking about both Americas. 1119. Let me give you our phone number here. It is Open Phone America, everybody, on America at Night. Our phone number is 833-482-5337. 833, the number 4, Valdez. Rich will be back on Monday night. Open Phone America. And we are back in a moment. You're listening to Westwood One.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
America at Night from Albany, New York. I'm Paul Vandenburgh. Our phone number, 833-482-5337. Let me talk next to Michael in Atoka, Tennessee. I don't know if that's up in the hills or where are you, Michael?
No, it's just out of Memphis.
Okay. Oh, very nice. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, before you get to what you called for, is Memphis reeling from that trial?
Yeah.
Of the police officers? Tell me a little bit about that.
Pretty black. I don't want to. I really don't want to.
Okay. Very good. Go right ahead. What'd you call about?
Yeah. Hey, we're talking about the Catholic Church, Catholicism, and it's kind of interesting to me when you mentioned in the last segment about comparing the Catholic Church now to what it used to be. Really, I disagree with that. What we need to do, and people need to do, is compare the Catholic Church to what the Bible says. And if we do that, we'll find, for example, there was no Catholic Church in the Bible. The Catholic Church didn't really come into existence till 600 A.D. And yet we read in the Bible the church came into existence on the day of Pentecost around 33 A.D. When Peter got up and preached, and the rest of the apostles also, and told the people about Jesus, and they were pricked in their heart. What do we need to do? And Peter said, repent and be baptized, every one of you, in the name of Jesus Christ, for the remission of your sins, and you'll receive the gift of the Holy Spirit.
Right.
For example, is that what the Catholic Church tells people today? No. Like you said earlier, they bring them in as babies. They have no choice in the matter. Can they believe? No. Can they repent? No. So is there baptism for the remission of sins? No, because babies don't have any sins. So it's really interesting when people just automatically say the first church is the Catholic Church. And
hold on. I don't hear people saying that. It sounds like you got a little bit of a bias going there against them, but I don't hear people saying that.
Actually, that's what they've been saying on every news station.
Okay, but stop that. That's not going to work here. You're throwing a broad statement out there, and I just told you, I'm not hearing that from people at all. You know, if you want to pound the Catholic Church, there's a lot to pound them over, but don't try to camouflage it.
I'm not camouflaging anything.
Yes, you are. Yeah, you are. You're calling here. You're rapping the Catholic Church, which is fine, okay? You're telling me about all their misgivings and about how everybody says the Catholic Church was there at the foundation. Nobody's saying that. You are.
Every Catholic says that.
No, they don't. No, they don't. No, they don't. No, they don't. They don't say that at all. Thank you. I'm glad you called. They don't say that at all. Listen, if you're out there and you're hating on the Catholic Church, I get it, okay? There's a lot of you out there that hate the Catholic Church. You don't like certain things. You can repent in the Catholic Church. You can do that. Stop it. Now, you want to talk to me about the pedophile priest? I'm all in on that, talking about that. That's so wrong and something that's got to be fixed by the Catholic Church. We'll see if they fix it. Can I get David in here before we go to a break at the bottom of the hour? Okay, let me hold off. We'll get David. David, you stay there. I'll start with you in our final half hour, okay? Hey, a lot of bad stuff about the Catholic Church. I know that. But don't tell me everybody goes around saying that it was there in the beginning. I think most of us know it wasn't there in the beginning, okay? Came later, but I'm glad you called. Appreciate it. 11:28. Here we are in Albany, New York tonight, all right? Sitting in for Rich. He'll be back on Monday celebrating a family milestone. He'll tell you all about it when he returns on Monday night. I'm Paul Vandenburgh, and if you'd like to join us, I hope you will. Final half hour coming up. 833, the number 4, Valdez. 833, the number 4, Valdez. A lot of Catholic Church talk tonight, and there should be. And we're back with more following the news. And you're listening to Westwood One.
Valdez. Call now 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
America at Night coming to you from Albany, New York this evening. I'm Paul Vandenburgh in for Rich. He'll be back Monday. And if you'd like to speak with us, I've got a line open, a couple lines open, jump in, 833, the number 4, Valdez. And let's start our final half hour with David in San Francisco this evening. David, how are you tonight?
Well, not too bad, Paul. Although I'm real disappointed in the tariffs, you remember in the old days, you're probably old enough to remember, there used to be little hucksters that would stand at the street corner with 3 walnut shells, and they would hide a pea underneath one, and then they would scoot them around back and forth, and they'd bet you that you couldn't find that pea. Well, the tariffs game that Donald Trump is playing is just the same thing. And what makes it worse is that since Elon Musk got into the Treasury, he's now taking the value of America and bouncing them around underneath those walnut shells called cyber currencies.
You know, hey, Dave, I got to tell you something. I'd love to have you go on for a while, but this is childish. As childish as it comes. What are you talking about? With tariffs are no good. Tariffs are no good. Walnuts. Come on. Bring it to another level, will you? What Trump is doing with tariffs here, he's explaining to you over and over again. Obviously, you don't like Trump and you're not going to listen to him, but he's made it crystal clear that countries around the world have taken advantage of America, and he's going to take it back. He's made it crystal clear that he can use tariffs, and the evidence is already in, to reestablish manufacturing and other jobs in this country. What is it about him that you don't like so much? Because you're not listening.
Well, you being from upstate New York, you know
Correct.
that Donald Trump is organized crime, right?
What else you got tonight? Let's see. You got walnuts, and now you got Trump and organized crime, which, by the way, nobody in upstate New York is familiar with that story at all. What else you got?
Well, so you're soft on crime then, because
Okay,
clearly America's value has diminished because we, the people, have been played for suckers by a guy from organized crime that has got PR people like you, apparently, that are selling out America for a bit of Bitcoin.
You know, I got to ask you, what planet are you from with that kind of garbage? There's nothing you say at all that make you. I mean, you call here, you lie. Get on with your life. Good to talk to you. Organized crime now with Trump? Well, you're kidding me, right? That's where we're going next? Organized crime, walnuts. Trump has explained quite clear, crystal clear to America, crystal clear, why he's doing tariffs. If you don't want to listen to him, I guess you're not going to listen to him. But he has established exactly what his plan is. I mean, what are we doing here? We're not going to pay attention. We're going to be people like this clown down in New Jersey today. The mayor of Newark, Ras Bacara, going in there and getting arrested. That's what we're going to do. Bringing along the congressional representatives that cry, ooh, they weren't nice to us. Well, get out of there and go back to where you belong. Elena Haba. They're going to go in there. They're going to start messing around with Elena Haba, the acting U.S. attorney down there in New Jersey. She came right out and made it clear how childish they were. It's stupid. But, I mean, this idea, you folks out there that want to rail on Trump for tariffs, Trump's trying to help America. He's trying to get America back where it needs to be. Who would you rather try to fix the problems in America today? Trump or the Democrats? These same Democrats who are down in New Jersey today getting arrested. Is that who you're all in with? The walnuts. The walnuts and the mob now, right? Oh. Our phone number here is 833-482-5337. 833, the number 4, Valdez. And as I told you, Rich will be back on Monday night here on America at Night. This evening. We'll take a couple more phone calls. We'll go to the top of the hour here this evening. And by the way, I'm a little disappointed. I'm going to tell you, I'm a little disappointed. I told you early on, we got a little stake down there in Palm Harbor, Florida now. And I got to get to know the lay of the land down there pretty quick. For you folks that might be listening to me down in Palm Harbor this evening. Upstate New York, where I am right now, it's done nothing but rain here for the last couple of weeks. Raining right now here, mid-40s, just horrible. But I look at Tampa down there where Palm Harbor is just outside of Tampa. 91 down there today. Tomorrow it's going to be up near 90 again. But they're getting a little rain too. But still, that is, it's very nice being in Florida this time of the year. Terrific time. Here's our phone number, 833, the number 4, Valdez, 833, the number 4, Valdez. And by the way, I mentioned, I want to come back to this just for a moment before I take another call. I mentioned Elon. Elon's kind of gone away, hasn't he? He's kind of gone now, isn't he? And I don't hear anybody complaining about him anymore. But he did a great job with Doge. And I hope those people stay on in Doge and continue to cut down the cost of government. But I thought Musk, for all of the abuse he took, for all the garbage that people threw at him, I thought that Musk did a very, very good job with his group, with Doge. And I hope that work continues. I hope it continues because there's just, it's almost, I think it's a bit overwhelming, all the work that needs to be done in America right now. When you watch this debt continue to go up and up and up. there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And folks, if you're out there and you're following what's going on in Washington, I will tell you, I mentioned his name earlier. Let me do it here. The fella to really follow is Charlie Gasparino. And he's on Twitter. And one thing about Charlie is he loves to tweet. He loves to tweet. So it was 2 days ago that Charlie was tweeting about some issues inside the Republican Party over the potential of maybe raising taxes to pay for things like no tax on tips, no interest on cars. And Gasparino was tweeting about that a couple of days ago. And then today I saw the president actually deal with it. Charlie seems to really be ahead of the game. He also works for Fox Business. You see him on Fox, but he writes a column for the New York Post. But I'm on Twitter, but I'm not on it all the time. There's some things I'm following, and there's some people I follow. He's one of them. If you're looking for somebody on Twitter to follow, that's really got a good eye on what's happening in Washington, Charlie Gasparino is the guy to follow. I've been following him, and I think he's really done a great job. Great job. And I told you about Letitia James earlier, who is the Attorney General here in New York, who brought those crazy charges against Donald Trump. And as the Attorney General sat in the front row of the courtroom every day, well, she's got her hands full now. The U.S. Attorney in the Northern District here has opened a criminal investigation into her background for falsifying records to obtain favorable loans on homes she purchased in Virginia in 2023, a Brooklyn brownstone she purchased, and there's also some issues out there with her filing or applying for a loan in which she used her father as her husband, and her father used her as his wife in the paperwork. It's insane. Plus, there's still another case here that involves her applying for a loan, claiming that it was a 4-apartment unit when it was a 5, which kept the loan down, and she would still get to keep the revenue. All in all, when it's all over with, she potentially could be charged with wire fraud, mail fraud, and bank fraud. And I say this because, this is a woman who openly campaigned against getting Donald Trump. They drag him into court on crazy charges, and here she is out here breaking the law on her own. And we will see now the Department of Justice has referred that over to the U.S. Attorney in the Northern District. That's just a part of some of the things that go on here in crazy New York. Our phone number, 833, the number 4, Valdez. More phone calls coming up. We're in Albany, New York, and we're back on Westwood 1.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, we are back. America at Night comes to you tonight from Albany, New York. My name is Paul Vandenburgh, and you can catch me Monday morning on our morning show here at WGDJ in Albany, New York. I do mornings 5:30 to 10. And my thanks to Rich Valdez for asking me to come in tonight. He'll be back Monday here on America at Night. And let me stay with your phone calls here this evening, and let me talk to Jerome. Jerome is next up in Charleston, South Carolina. Jerome, how's the weather down there?
It's wonderful. It was raining, a little thunderstorm, but so far so good.
Okay, good.
It's
What's up?
okay.
What's up?
Hey, I just was wondering about this talk about the Pope and about Janine Pirro.
Okay.
I mean, look, I'm not Catholic. I've never been Catholic. But I got one gripe against the Catholic religion. They cover up too many scandals, man. I mean, come on. And then, this thing with the Pope and all this stuff. As far as that, how they pick the Pope, that's got to be one of the most rigged deals around, man. They're all behind these secret walls. All these people gather. Nobody knows how they vote. All of a sudden, they pick one guy. How do they do that?
It's tradition.
I don't
It's
get that.
Yeah, it's tradition. That's how it works. That's always been the norm in the church. That's how they do it. It works for them. Now, you want to talk to me about scandals? You're right. Start with the pedophile priests, a big problem. But tradition's tradition. They do a good job with it.
It's so, I mean, it's just so secretive, man. It's just
that's all right.
underhanded. But the other thing about Janine Pirro,
right?
Hey, all I can say is lock up the liquor cabinet and hide the Botox, okay? Because she's a wild one. I don't know how long she's going to stay in office.
Well, she's going to stay until, and I'm glad you called, thank you. She's going to stay until Trump is done. That's how long she'll stay. She's very loyal to the Trump family, always has been. That was kind of a surprise to me that she took that job. I thought she was going to stay out of it, but Trump obviously turned to her and thought she'd be good for the job, and good for her. Good for her. Let me talk to Tony in Montreal here on America at Night from Albany, New York this evening. Tony, how are you? How's things in Montreal?
Hi, Paul. A little bit rainy and a little bit cool, probably about 45. It's been raining here for 2 days, so
yeah,
similar to down in Charleston, Charlestown. Is it Charlestown, South Carolina? I wanted to just say one thing. I just wanted to say one thing. I talked to your producer, and I've been listening to the gentleman from Charlestown. Jerome is his name. I just said a shout out. I find him very entertaining, but I don't agree with anything he says. But it just goes to prove that I can love Trump and he can love Kamala, and we can still find each other commonality and be able to find each other a space where we can say we're entertaining and we could be friends. That's the way politics should be, as it was back in the 80s and when Kennedy was around in the 60s. People could be of virgin politics, but today we're unfortunately in a 50-50 split both in Canada and in the United States. And Paul, the thing that kills people like me the most is when I heard there was a Doge hearing on men in women's sports. I am sorry, man. I am not for that. And the transgender push by Crockett and the Democrats is the hill they're going to die on, because most people in the United States, I would say 90% of the people in the United States don't believe in that, don't believe that. 90% in Canada don't believe that. Why do men want to participate in women's sports, and why would a political party push that? Exactly when I believe there was a fencer and another athlete who played volleyball. The volleyball person suffered serious head injury and brain damage, permanent. And Crockett came up and was making fun of those athletes that are women that refuse to compete against men, especially the fencer who took a knee and was suspended for a full year.
I know.
And this was reported.
Ridiculous.
And Paul, what is it? Would you want to see Let's put a great a fighter in a ring like Joe Frazier. You want to see Joe Frazier fight a woman? Are you kidding me?
I don't. You're right. Thank you. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see women that are formerly men competing against women. I don't want that. It's wrong. It's dead wrong. I guess there's still some people around the country that think this is a good idea. And you've got to ask yourself, what is wrong with the Democrat Party? Why do so many people in that party think this is a good idea? Why do they? It's a bad idea. Very bad idea. I'll tell you a good idea. I'll take a couple more phone calls. We'll do that next when we return. America at Night. You're listening to Westwood One.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Back with you from Albany, New York. Final moments here tonight. A lot of I have to admit, when I came in to do the show tonight, I wasn't sure where this would go. And what I mean by that is, I really like talking much more about Trump and what he's doing, because I think what he's doing is trying to really, really seriously try to take America in the right direction. But, the Catholic Church is a pretty big issue, too, with the new bishop. And that seems to be something that you're all very interested in talking about tonight. The Catholic Church, they've got to rebound. They've got work to do, but hopefully Pope Leo XIV will be the guy to get them there. I got to get another caller in here. Let's talk next to Richie in Redmond, California. Where's Redmond City, California, Rich?
It's Redwood City.
Where are you? What's that close to?
It's it's not far from San Francisco.
Okay. Not bad. Not bad. You've been out there all your life?
A fair amount of it, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And yeah. My point I'd like to raise is that Catholicism is not really a religion. It's more like a cult. And by law, I think it should be redefined. I don't think it represents an anti-Western ideology, which is inimical to true Americanism, as far as I'm concerned. You really ought to know this.
Well, wait a minute. Give me a better example than that. I mean, you've given me a broad statement. Be specific. What do you mean?
Well, I mean, it lies about a lot of things. They claim that their first pope was Peter. Peter was not a Catholic. He was a Nazarene. How could he have been the first pope? That's a lie, right there.
Well, you're touching on an element of history there that I think is true. You say it's a lie. I think it's true. I'm pretty sure. Well, we're out of time. I'm sorry. I should have got him up earlier. But it's not a cult, everybody. If you hate the Catholic Church, then it's a cult, but it's not. I'm sorry. My thanks to everybody involved. Rich Valdez, back on Monday night. I'm Paul Vandenburgh in Albany. Have a great weekend, everybody.